Well, hello there.
Well, hello there.
Okay, we're back on our camera. We'll go back with our audio recording. Gary was a little worried because yours wasn't showing up on our feed. We're on mains. We're on subs. Alright, we should be okay, I think. I don't know why that did that. Okay, we're ready? We'll go back to Spider-Man.
Okay.
Okay, so our first topic of the night is talking about the split between Spider-Man and Disney. Really kind of the Sony split between Disney and Spider-Man, whatever, however else you want to call that. The rumor was this week, and see, this is the weird thing, is it's rumor, but it's not rumor. I don't know how, people have been getting information, but then they're saying, but it's not done, the negotiations aren't over yet. Supposedly, negotiations broke down between Disney and Sony over Spider-Man and the role he's going to play in the Marvel MCU. Now, for people who are confused, because I know they've seen things on Facebook and stuff, and maybe they don't know what that means, because I do think there are people out there who truly don't understand what's going on here. Spider-Man as a property right was not ever sold as part of the MCU package, as it were. Fantastic Four and X-Men were sold to one group, which was Fox. Spider-Man and all of his entities were sold to Sony.
Yes.
And then Avengers and everything that's entailed with that was sold to Disney. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, is that Marvel did that to make more money, right?
Well, this happened a while ago.
Long time ago. We're talking the 90s, right?
Sony was making Spider-Man movies in 2000.
Right.
So Sony's had the Spider-Man rights for a long time.
Right.
And you got the X-Men came out about the same time. They were owned by Fox way back then. So Marvel, what people don't remember, they went through a period of almost bankruptcy.
Right.
So they sold off the rights to a lot of their movies.
That was, mid-90s, right?
Yeah, and they sold off the rights to a lot of their characters to different studios just to make money. I mean, some of these things were sold for like $500,000,
right.
$250,000.
Right, it was a ridiculously cheap price.
Anything they could get because they needed money.
Right.
So these have been constantly owned by these other properties. Well, the real big sale that we've heard about recently is the Fox deal, which is that Fantastic Four and all
X-Men,
that, mutants in general, which was all owned by Fox, and Disney couldn't touch it, which is why we've seen no mutants, no Fantastic Four, any of that in the Marvel MCU. This year, we're sold back to Disney. So now that's why we know going forward, at some point we're going to get a Fantastic Four, at some point we're going to get Doctor Doom, at some point we're going to get mutants, and all of them. So there's a lot going on there.
Now, to interject with that, too, did you guys notice there was a headline, and it got buried like page 5 several weeks ago, that it is confirmed that Disney has halted all mutant projects. So there will not be a New Mutants now. That's not happening.
They apparently watched it, and they don't think it's...
They don't like it.
They don't like it.
Right.
After
so they're
all
not even going to release it.
They filmed that movie like 2.5 times.
Right.
They're still not happy.
They're still not happy with it, and they're not going to release it. Which I think is a good call on Disney's part, to be honest, because if they didn't really put their hands in it at all... I'm surprised Dark Phoenix even made its way out of the gate, but I think that was just kind of like it ain't going to make any money anyway, so let it go, and it's good. It was interesting, too, that around the same time, Disney has said that they're not necessarily cutting ties with Ryan Reynolds over Deadpool, and that they're not above making a rated R Deadpool.
Apparently all that's still totally in play. They think Ryan's a great Deadpool.
Right, and they don't like the PG-13 Deadpool. No, they admitted it didn't make any money. It didn't do anything for them. So I'm happy at the idea that they're realizing that Ryan Reynolds is a good Deadpool, and maybe they need to keep him on board.
Yeah, we'll hope that stays together.
I hope so, too. I hope as they move forward that... It would be really weird for Ryan Reynolds to keep his deal and nobody else does. But, I mean, that's not unheard of, though, either in the Disney realm. So, in amongst all this, recently Sony had been working with Disney, and they had been splitting profits and had been talking about, percentage, 90% of this, 10% of that.
This is the way this went down, is Spider-Man never got sold back to Marvel.
No.
Sony still owned it, but they made a deal that the character could be used in a couple MCU movies, the first being Civil War, and then into the 2 Avengers movies, if they co-produced independent Spider-Man films at Sony, under the Sony banner.
Right.
And they agreed to. And they were doing this kind of nice thing for 5 movies.
Yeah, and for the Spider-Man movie, my understanding was the split was supposed to be 90% Sony, 10% went to Disney. So
yeah, they didn't get a lot. They got some.
They got some.
Yeah,
but Sony did the work, so they got a majority of the profit.
Yeah, apparently there was some back end deals and other things, but it was they were working together on this.
And then the other big thing that Sony got out of it was that Kevin Feige
did the producing.
Would produce with them. And I think that was a big deal. I mean, Kevin Feige stepping in to help produce, I do think was a huge step forward for the Spider-Man franchise.
But you've got to remember 2 things have happened in the past year or 2. One, Venom came out and was a huge success. Don't ask me why. It was a huge success.
I hated that movie. I don't understand how it became a success.
It has nothing to do with the MCU.
Nope.
But Sony saw dollar signs there. 2, Into the Spider-Verse came out. Again, completely Sony's side. Artistically, a huge success. Monetarily, it didn't do great, but it won an Academy Award for Best Animated Picture and has huge franchise potential for them. So Sony is really feeling their own oats right now.
On the flip side, I got to give them some cred here because it was cheaper to produce Into the Spider-Verse, believe it or not, than any of the other projects.
Well, of course, yeah.
So it did percentage-wise make more because of the cheap cost of producing it. So I think Sony has in their head, well, we could do more cartoons and make a lot more money if we just did a little more cartoon stuff.
Right.
And I think a lot of that was they hired good writers and they hired good drawers. I don't know what you call cartoonists, whatever you want to call it. Animators, thank you. I was looking for the word. And
that they they've been talking about things they did artistically in the movie that you don't notice, and one is that the lead character, Miles Morales, is animated at 12 frames per second through the first half of the movie while he's learning how to be Spider-Man, while the experienced Spider-Man and Gwen and all that are animated at 24 frames a second, so they're smoother. And as he gets better, they increased his frame count to bring him up to speed with the others, so by the end, he's animated at 24 frames a second and is as smooth as the other ones, but he's jerkier at the beginning than the other characters are.
Huh.
And it's done.
That's interesting.
Yeah. In fact, they even showed the moment that the 2 of them grab the briefcase as they're escaping from Fisk's facility and they're swinging through the trees. And he's like, "You're getting it. Whip and swing. Whip and swing."
Yeah.
That moment, his frame count picks up to match up with the existing Spider-Man. So they did a lot of amazing artistical things that you just don't even know about. And it's one of those reasons it struck people on a subconscious level. There was a lot going on there. So there was some amazing artistic direction and style going on in that movie.
So I gotta be honest, I think Sony saw dollar signs. I mean, let's face it, Far From Home did really well.
Yeah.
At the box office.
Over $1 billion.
Spider-Verse did fairly well percentage-wise at the box office. And so I think in their mind, they're seeing some significant things here.
Now, apparently, in the new deal, and I've heard different things come out, Sony came back, or Disney came back, and now they wanted half or more. And they wanted, like...
The rumor is they wanted a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they wanted other stuff, too, that was, like, really high. And a lot of people are saying it's a bad deal. It's like, it's the whole... They posted the whole Vader and Lando thing, where it's like, it's a bad deal. This deal's getting worse all the time.
Right, yeah.
Alter it further. But somebody's like, why are we agreeing to this? We own Spider-Man.
Right.
We own it. So why are we agreeing to them increasing all these things? So a lot of people say Sony's in the right to defend their property that they own, that apparently they're doing well with. And a lot of people are saying, well, one of the reasons you're doing so well is because of Marvel movies. And, Spider-Man being in them is hugely popular. And it's overflowing back into your movies. If he wasn't in Infinity War and Civil War and Endgame, you might not have that flow back. And they're saying, well, look at Venom. Venom did great. Look at Spider-Verse did great. So it's this thing where they're kind of standing up to the big empire that is Disney and saying, no, we deserve this level of a cut and stuff. But it means if there's no agreement, Spider-Man gets pulled from the MCU. You're not going to have references to him anymore in the MCU. Right. You're not going to have him talk about him. Peter Parker's going to vanish.
Right.
And in the Spider-Man movies that are left to be made, Tom Holland's contracted for 2 more under Sony. Well, guess what? No mention of Tony Stark. No mention of the Snap. No mention of anything that ties back into the Marvel movies. All of that has to go away, and they have to tell their own stories with just Spider-Man's world. It gets to become a much smaller world all of a sudden.
Right.
He won't have Tony Stark's glasses. He can't talk about, all that's going to have to be forgotten.
Stark Tech is gone.
Stark Tech is gone. If they bring Mysterio back, he can't talk about being a lackey of Tony Stark. They can't talk about where his technology. It's got to be all ignored. They can't touch those subjects. So it's a very tricky setup if it doesn't get settled.
And my understanding, too, the other rumor that had come about through some other articles and things, again, these are all rumors. Everything is. Nothing's been confirmed by anybody yet. But one of the rumors was that...
Well, Sony did put out an official statement.
They did put a statement out, correct.
Saying that
it's not, it's not going well. But, and I'll talk about that in a second, too. Sony's playing some interesting things here, too. But one of the things that has been rumored is that one of the things that Disney wanted Sony to do was to not touch the Sinister Six until after the MCU told them to.
Right.
In other words, they wanted to play out their arc, whatever it is with Spider-Man that they needed him for, before they would jump into the Sinister Six movie. And Sony's like, no, wait a minute. We want to be able to develop that Sinister Six storyline. Apparently that's what Sony's been like chomping at the bit to do.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we saw them try to do it with the previous Spider-Man, not so well.
No.
And they're chomping at the bit again. They want to get into the Sinister Six, and I get it. It's a really cool storyline, but
Marvel has
why do they have to wait on Disney? You know what I mean?
Disney has always played the long game, saying you
Right.
build this up, you make it pay off better later. And Sony is not getting anything back from Disney. Let's face it, Sony's not getting anything
Right.
back from all the other Marvel movies. They're just getting their little deal with Spider-Man. So
Now-
they're like, we want to tell our own stories with Spider-Man where we make our profit.
On the flip side of that, the other rumor is that Sony deliberately leaked this information days before D23 to put the pressure on Disney to seal the deal,
To deal better.
to get a better deal, and to walk away with Spider-Man. And that Sony thought if they played their cards, Disney would just lay down and say, okay, we're going to do it, and accept it, and because D23 is coming up, and we want to be able to include Spider-Man into that.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And I think that Sony was kind of shocked that they didn't.
Well, I'll guarantee
Feel
you
the pressure.
there's a lot of last-minute scrambling. They probably had something. No, there's no guarantee they had anything to show at Spider-Man other than images. You know,
Well, I can say this because I had friends who went into the hall last night at D23. They said it was a really awkward moment. You walk in the Avengers Hall. There's the giant Avengers poster, and prominently in the middle of the poster is Iron Man and Spider-Man standing next to him. And he says it was just kind of like all your buddies are looking around going, do they know they put Spider-Man on the poster?
But again, posters and things.
I know.
He's already in that movie.
Already
He's
there.
in Endgame.
Yeah.
They can just say, yeah, we already had that. It was a deal we already made.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's an awkward, not talking about the room moment.
And we'll talk about it more when we get to it, but we're talking about the live feed of announcements at D23.
Yeah.
Disney clearly has 24 other things planned, and they're very, very, very clearly saying, lose Spider-Man.
Right.
We'll work around it.
And then I thought it was interesting because Disney's defense was very interesting. It's a valid defense and it's a not so valid defense. Their valid defense is Kevin Feige's busy. He cannot be on a set for a Spider-Man film. I mean, we've got, 2020? There's 4 films coming out in that year alone. So for him to sit in a set for something that's really not related to their MCU completely, I get it. He is a busy man. He is going to be crazy busy. I get what they're saying. I understand that they can't split the guy 30 times and expect him to be everywhere. Totally get that. Understand it and agree. On the split side of that, I'm not sure that's a good excuse to say, well, we're not going to work with Spider-Man anymore. We're out. You know what I mean? Like, I just kind of felt like
Well, I think they're trying to say that's the reason Feige's not going to work with them.
Right.
They're not. I think they were trying to portray it as, well, he's super busy. That wasn't really the deal breaker.
Right.
We couldn't have, even if we kept working with them on Spider-Man, he probably wasn't going to produce with them because he's just too busy. I think that's what they're trying to portray. That's not part of it. But who knows? There's tons behind the scenes.
Let me ask you guys this. Who do you think is the bad guy in this? Is it Disney or is it Sony? Gary, what do you think? Who's the bad guy here? Is that Disney or is it Sony?
I think it's Sony
Okay, and why do you think it's Sony?
because they're trying to be the greedy one in the whole thing by trying to get stuff that doesn't belong to them at all, like partial stakes in Disney Plus and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about that, Eric. One of the things that was leaked was that Sony wants a stake at Disney Plus. Like, they want a 10 to 12% stake in Disney Plus. Even though there's no plans to bring a Spider-Man anything into Disney Plus, they felt like they had a right to ask for some of that revenue since they were working with Disney. That was another rumor that was out there. I just want to put that one out there,
Yeah,
too.
if that's true, that's
If it's
overstepping.
Yeah. So who do you think the big bad guy is here?
It's tough. I mean, you've got to, when it comes down to it, Sony owns Spider-Man.
Right.
They do get to do what they want to do.
Yep.
If they think they can be successful for the next 5 years and keep all the profits, well, that's how far ahead they're thinking. They don't have a universe to build.
Right.
So they are thinking shorter term, and they're thinking, where's our money coming from? Where are we going to make our most profit? If Disney truly was going to ask for half of the amount of money that Sony was going to make on these 2 Spider-Man movies, but not own the character, that's kind of greedy on Disney's part. So both are probably being greedy for different reasons. I think in the end, Disney being as powerful they are and having all these other things, they didn't need to ask for 50% of Spider-Man. They could have just, it's not going to hurt their pocketbooks at all if they still only got 10% of Spider-Man. I think they asked for a lot on one character they don't own.
Okay.
When they have this gigantic library, it's like me. I could own 10 cars, and I could have another guy here who owns a car, but he wants to show it in my lot or whatever. Okay, well, yeah, but if we sell it, I get half.
Right.
The guy's like, well, no, I own the car. You're helping me show it, but I own the car. That'd be very greedy of me to say, well, I'm selling all this other stuff, but if I'm going to sell yours, I'm going to get half of it just because you put it here. That's asking a lot for something you don't own.
Right.
So to me, they're both being greedy in different ways. I don't think there is a good guy. I think it's corporate business dealings, and they get messy and dirty and mean. What sucks is, as always happens in business dealings, the last thing being thought of is the artistic side.
Right.
What could be, I'm sure Disney is thinking that, but they're not thinking,
oh my gosh, things could fall apart without Spider-Man.
No,
that's
I think
not in their
that's
head.
to them. We've got plenty of other options.
Right.
But to Sony, it's like, well, this is ours, and it's a big moneymaker. We can't lose it to half of it. And think about it. It is kind of Sony standing up to a big conglomerate that someday wants to own everything. They're basically saying, no, we do own this. We deserve that. We bought it back when it was nothing. We put lots of money into 2 different series before it finally caught on with this 3rd one. We've done a lot of building with this character. And yes, you guys are doing that MCU, but we've put a lot into this character over 20 years.
Right.
Now you want half of it? That does seem greedy on Disney's part for something they own. So I can see why Sony fought back.
But how many times do you have to reboot everything? Like the Batman franchise. How many times you got to reboot?
Oh, yeah.
It?
How many times we got to see Martha when what's his name, shot?
Right, yeah.
How many times does Uncle Ben got to die?
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
how many times do I have to see pearls hit the ground?
Now, like I said to Bob earlier about this thing this is the first Spider-Man that I actually wanted to watch.
Right.
And I hate Spider-Man. I'm probably the only person on this planet that hates Spider-Man.
I'm not too far behind you, Gary, but yeah.
And I wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
So, especially after the Andrew Garfield series.
That's fine.
That stunk. And the Tobey Maguire, when they went too many bad guys in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, and let's face it, the first iteration of this character with Tom Holland and this style of writing that we saw was in a Marvel movie. It wasn't in a standalone Sony movie.
Right.
But I come back to, it's the person who has all the legal right fighting against the big guy, who doesn't have the legal right.
I think Sony sees themselves as the guy being pushed around and is trying to stand up to the big old franchise.
But I just think it's messy. No matter what you do, it's messy.
See, I personally see Disney as the bad guy here, and I'll tell you why.
Well, this is hold up a minute though. Okay, Disney has started the Sinister Six characters, each individual one. You had the Vulture, and you got the
in Sony movies, owned by Sony.
Right. But with Marvel was the one that was.
I get what he's saying. Feige's the one who pushed.
Producing it. Okay, but Marvel owns it, or Sony owns it.
I understand that, but what I'm saying though is if they go on their own, they're going to either retcon the stuff that's already been there.
Probably.
They don't have to. They own the Vulture as Michael Keaton. The Michael Keaton can't talk about, Stark took business from me and so I became the Vulture, but he could still be the Vulture as long as he doesn't reference Marvel things.
Right. But what I'm saying is, like, most time when they start something up and then they take control over something, the high ups in this industry, like with Warner Brothers, for instance. All right, they got to change stuff up.
Yeah.
All right, and that's why I think Disney's. I don't want to say scared, but concerned that, okay, we started the Sinister Six. Let's bring the next person in the Sinister Six in the third movie first.
Right, they wanted a slow beat up
Right.
to Sinister Six,
Right.
and it sounded like Sony wanted to jump right into it.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right, and give us an Electro like we had in
the Garfield movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I agree with everything you're saying creatively.
And then Rhino at the end of Spider-Man 3.
You know, I agree with all of it.
2 or whatever.
But legally, it still comes down to the fact that Sony's doing nothing wrong. They're
not. But what's going to happen though is they're going to alienate the people that hate Spider-Man, that like me, that it's a shit movie now.
See, I think Disney's in the wrong here in that instead of trying to negotiate here, they let's face it, they're the bigger corporation. There's no doubt about it, and this is why I see them as the bad guy here. They could have played in somebody else's pool and dealt with it, like you said. Even if they took a loss, I mean, let's assume for a minute they took a loss on a Spider-Man film, which they're never going to do. But let's say they did. They can afford the loss. You now have the top, 6 grossing films of all time, or pretty close to it? I mean, as a Disney corporation,
yeah.
I think you can take a loss or a hit every now and again. Or you can afford to work with a company that maybe isn't grossing at the levels that you are, but only do a 10% profit margin on it. I mean, I really think Disney could have afforded to work with Sony. And they chose not to.
Yes,
do you get what I'm saying?
How much was Sony asking for them to keep feeding them quality? This is the thing we don't know.
Yeah, that's the other part of it we don't know, and I get that.
Is how much was Sony saying, yeah, we're going to keep owning this, we're going to keep 10%, but... And maybe they were coming back saying, and then when you want to use Spider-Man in your movies, maybe Sony was saying, and then we want bigger percentages of that,
right?
Of your movies.
I'd love to.
Disney would.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall and see what's really.
Their lawyers would probably take one look at that and go, no, those are our movies.
But I am saying that I see Disney as the bigger conglomerate here, so therefore, to me, they have less to lose ultimately, and quite honestly, more to gain if they were just willing to work with Sony. And it just sounds to me like, yet again, Disney and their ultimate wisdom were like, we're not going to work with them. And it just, it fell apart, and instead of trying to keep negotiating, they just gave up.
Well, Disney wants to own they want to own all their properties.
And all I can think of is that, and we were just looking at that meme earlier of Rocket Raccoon going, I want to buy Spider-Man, not for sale. Okay, fine, I want to buy Sony, not for sale. Part of me says, they just bought Fox out.
Yep.
Because Fox ticked off. I mean, ultimately, Disney was mad at the way Fox was producing the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. I mean, it was dying. It was a dying group of heroes, and Disney says, we're just going to buy it and fix it. And part of me is like, how long do they go before they go, you know what, the heck with this whole Sony thing, we'll just buy them and fix Spider-Man.
Sony's definitely bigger. Sony's more expensive. I mean,
they would be ultimately, but could you not see Disney doing it? I would
that's the joke. That meme is funny simply because it's scarily true. But
it could totally happen, and it would totally change the movie entertainment industry.
Okay, look at it through this way, right? A mechanic who's working on a car gets that car up and running really great,
right?
And the guy that owns the car is not going to pay him for doing it,
right?
All right, look at it that way.
Well, okay,
because the reason why I say that is because, again, Spider-Man was dying. With Garfield and all that.
Yep.
After Garfield and the McGuire movies and stuff.
And Feige offered to come in. He made the offer.
Right. But I want to say something.
Go ahead.
With your analogy, now let's put the numbers behind it. The car is worth $20,000. The mechanic does his work, fixes it, says, I want $10,000. For fixing that car and making it run. Well, the value of the car is only 20. I'm not going to give you 10. I'm not going to give you half the value of the car just for fixing it. But that's what Disney's asking for.
Right. But
we don't own that car, but we want half its value. And going forward, we want half the profits going forward, just for fixing it this time.
Still.
That's, mechanic asking for that. I'd go to a different mechanic. I'd keep my car and say, no, you're too expensive.
No, because being a mechanic, if it was me, the car wouldn't be leaving my lot with my stuff that's in it.
Right, I get what you're saying.
So, that's the thing, and it goes back to because like you're saying, you can't reference Stark, you can't Avengers and all that other stuff. That franchise just died.
Well, they're gonna call. Yeah, they're gonna. This is what is gonna. Like I said, the artistic side of it is the last thing being considered. It is. It's gonna destroy it, but
the part that kills me is Disney's got a long game, and Sony's got a short game.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's like these two companies.
Well, no, they're trying to play.
They both want a franchise.
Disney's is much longer.
Right. But I mean, the reality is Disney's gonna make it. You know what I mean? And I just don't see Sony being able to play that game on the short game and playing it out.
This is what will change it. Is when the first Spider-Man movie comes out that Marvel's not involved with, and if it does poorly.
Yeah.
If it bombs, not if it bombs, if it way underperforms, you're going to have Sony going, okay, how much you want to buy the thing for? And then
don't
Disney's
think the fans don't know that too.
Disney's going to say, well, now it's damaged property, we're offering less. And that's the problem, is they have all the power and the money.
Right.
In the end, they've got the strong hand. They can turn it away for now and say, look what happened to the X-Men. They were devastated, and we're getting them back. We'll change it. They'll do the same thing. They'll say, yeah, we'll lose it for now. Maybe they'll make a bad movie, or two even, and then we'll be able to bring it back 5 years from now, put Tom Holland back in the role, make everyone happy, and retcon those movies like they never existed.
Right.
So Disney has all the power.
Spider-Verse, the whole thing.
Disney has all the snap it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Disney has all the power.
Did Far From Home start the
it introduced the multiverse theory, so that part of me sits here and says,
bye.
Yeah, like you could make Spider-Man go off into a multiverse, and well, he disappeared. He's off in that multiverse, and we'll see if we get him back. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. So I agree. Sony kind of kicked themselves in the pants by introducing the multiverse, because they may have given Disney an out of Spider-Man. I mean,
right.
And then the big reveal at the end,
here's the thing: Disney or Sony introduced the multiverse in a Sony movie.
Right.
Just like the name X-Men or Mutant, they probably copyrighted that.
Right.
Marvel can't do multiverse now.
Right.
They have to come up with another name.
Yeah, what are they going to call it now? Yeah.
And they just will. They'll call it something else.
Yeah.
But
well, maybe they could just have the name for it. Maybe Disney.
Although I will say this to stir the pot just a little bit more. The rumor now is that they're scrambling on the Marvel side about the Doctor Strange movie, because apparently Spider-Man was going to play a large role in that movie, because the multiverse was going to get introduced through Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, which, quite honestly, in the comic books was a pretty common thing, with the two of them working together.
Both in New York City?
Right, both in New York City, through the multiverse, opening up the doors to the multiverse, doing all that kind of stuff. And Spider-Man was supposedly going to play a major role in that. And so now they're scrambling to rewrite scripts. How are we going to do that? How do we... So there's that.
You want to know who I feel bad for? And not horribly, because he's rich and he'll be fine, but still, Tom Holland.
I was thinking the same thing.
Because he has no control over this.
Right.
He's a fan. He was super excited. He's probably looking ahead going, God, I'm going to be in a Doctor Strange movie, and I can do this. I got like the next 8, 9 years planned. And now he's like, I'm going to have to go do 2 contracted movies that fans are going to be putting negativity on me. I'm contracted to do it. I've got to side with Sony, even though I may not like it.
Right.
And I'm going to do these 2 movies, and he's kind of stuck.
I liken him to the Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa moment, right? Like where they're looking and going, man, Wonder Woman did great. Oh, maybe we'll get a great Justice League. Crud. It was awful. Wait, what? We're only going to do 1 more Wonder Woman movie? Wait, what?
There's no more connected
DCEU. So, it's the same scenario where like they were kind of like, wait, that's, and you have no control. It's something that's out of your control. It's not your fault. It's just the way the studio designed the situation. And yeah, I feel bad for Tom Holland. I do. You're right. He's going to make tons of money off these movies, and that part of it's not the part. But
stressful mentally, it's...
You got to know mentally it has... I mean, as an actor, you feel like a failure. Like you failed, even though it's not your fault. You feel like it is.
Yeah.
And that's got to have a blow on...
And think about it. All these actors were his friends. He appeared with Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, and he liked showing up with them and talking, being... He was not going to be appearing with them at conventions anymore. He probably will. Sony will probably say you can't even be seen with them.
Yeah, he can't even be in the same
and
area.
He's going to be. That's going to affect his personal life with this group of people he made friends with over the years. So it's like it's horrible.
Okay, so with all that said, we're going to move on to the bigger topic of the night, which is D23,
the evil empire. Let's talk about them.
Which is happening just as we were talking here, and there was a lot to talk about. First off, let's talk about the big thing that we just watched. We watched the trailer for The Mandalorian. And, there's a new trailer out now, which is really kind of exciting, actually. I'm like, wow, blown away by the trailer here. And
it's pretty cool. If people got to remember, again, timelines get confusing. People at first they're like, "When is this?" This is not after Last Jedi and all that. This is back just after Return of the Jedi.
right,
So
between Return of the Jedi and
Yeah.
The Force Awakens, just so everybody remembers, where the Mandalorian is occurring. Now, the rumor is still that it's taking place on either Concord Dawn or Mandalore. I'm thinking it's more Concord Dawn than it is Mandalore by what we're seeing, just because of the devastation on the planet and whatnot. I still love the cowboy-esque-ness of the Mandalorian himself. There's a lot of great cowboy-looking shots in this whole trailer that just make it look cool, especially him holding his pistol and waving his finger at the trigger and the gun. And now they've released the date officially. November 12th is officially the day that it will
which
open,
is the launch of Disney Plus.
So which is the day Disney Plus will launch, and which is the day it's going to start.
There's still a lot of details we don't know about Disney Plus. Will you be able to binge this entire series? Will it be released weekly?
Well, they did say that at a celebration. You will not be able to binge it. It will be a weekly release, kind of like they did with Swamp Thing, and they did with
the DCEU.
The DCEU's all been done once a week, right? Same idea. They didn't want to. They were going to do it, and Pascal said it would be really cool. He said, but there's several episodes where they did that, and there wasn't any sort of climactic moment. You would kind of be like, oh, well, I can just watch the next one. He goes, I wanted a little bit of, So he did say there were a couple of episodes where you're going to watch it at the end. You're going to be like, I got to wait till next week.
Yeah.
So he did say there's some moments in the show where you're going to want to oh my gosh, I got to wait a week now. But I mean, I got to be honest. Again, I know you guys didn't see a lot of this footage. Now that you're seeing some of this footage, a lot of this is what we saw at Celebration. To be honest, the IG-88 scene, that was right out of what the footage we saw. That scene where he's pointing the gun, the pistol, and the rifle at the stormtroopers, that one right there, that was right out of what we watched at Celebration.
I never liked those, and they're called Mexican standoff.
Yeah,
I never like them because what's stopping? If someone points a gun at me, I'm going to start shooting. I'm not going to hold my gun up and wait. Well, so the whole idea of a Mexican standoff to me makes no sense.
It's my favorite part of that whole scene is he's holding the rifle, right? If you look at him really holding the rifle, he doesn't have his hand on the trigger in any way that would let him shoot, right? So not to ruin the whole scene, but at some point in the scene, he puts his gun down, and so the stormtrooper goes, oh, good, because I couldn't shoot you anyway. I didn't have my hand on the damn trigger. So it was like somebody caught on to he couldn't hold the rifle, and they made a joke about it. Yeah. So at least there's that, you know what I mean? There's that element of
Now look at his costume there. It doesn't look like
the coloring is different every time I see it. So I'm wondering if he's going to go through a couple different sets of armor, because if you look at it later. And I was noticing that
red
too.
In that shot.
Yeah, it's like a maroon, right?
And then it turns very red. We saw it live. They have it at D23, and it's very brown.
It's brown. So I'm thinking he's going to go through several sets of Beskar again. Because even in the movie here, or in the trailer here, and hang on, I'm going to find the one shot where they showed part of his armor, and I was like, wait a minute, that's a different color than he had earlier. It's this shot right here.
That's hard to tell with the sun behind him, but
hang on.
I see what you're saying.
Right there.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
It's kind of hard to tell, I guess. But you're right. When you look at it, they've actually got the armor sitting at D23, and it does look drastically different color-wise anyway. There's the IG scene I was telling you about. They did confirm it is not IG-88. It is a different IG.
Okay.
So apparently he hires an IG to help him. So all sorts of great scenes. I mean, this one we did not see a Celebration. I thought that was cool, where he was going to retract the door through the guy's body. But this is what got me excited. They showed a scene with all of these carbonite frozen people.
Oh, yeah, there's a whole line of them.
All in a row. Now, I just read an article today that somebody put out this morning at 9 a.m. that be prepared, the Razor Crest would have a carbon freezing chamber in it, and that the Mandalorian would be using it heavily.
Well, I hope they've improved the technology, because that thing had to be huge before.
Well, apparently what happened, the way they're explaining it in the article, is that, in Return of the Jedi, or Empire Strikes Back, the technology was brand new, right? So they did an awful job. They almost killed Han. Just very terrible job, right? And apparently all through Return of the Jedi, and just a little bit after that, they didn't, by that point, they had mastered the technology. And so bounty hunters, by this point, were using carbon freezing chambers as just a quick, efficient way to capture somebody and transport them. If you couldn't turn them in like tomorrow when they were due or whatever, carbon freeze them, take them there when you get a chance, and drop them off. So I think it's a cool idea. I'm kind of like stoked at the idea that a ship is going to have a carbon freezing chamber, and we're going to watch him throw guys in it. I mean, how cool is that? And what are we going to carbon freeze? It looks like maybe Ugnaughts and Weakways and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Oh, this one here looks like the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers.
It does kind of, yeah, right? But are we going to see a Jar Jar carbon freeze at some point? You know what I mean? Like, Corey, what do you think? But I just thought that was cool. And he was talking about how difficult it is to be a bounty hunter in this, in this day and age. One thing you didn't hear, though, which I thought was interesting, in the trailers that we saw, you could hear Pedro Pascal talking through the helmet. He didn't say a word the whole time. You didn't hear him say a word.
Didn't hear anything. Plus, we've still not seen him without the mask. I'm wondering if we're ever gonna.
You will.
They showed footage of him without the mask?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be brief moments, they said. But Pascal had said on several occasions, he was well aware when he took the role that the helmet would play a major part of the role. And I like him. He said it's like taking on Boba Fett, but then taking the helmet. You don't do that.
Yeah.
And I liked his reasoning behind that. So
well, it was like what's his name who played Dredd?
Carl Urban.
Yeah,
Carl Urban, who insisted he never take the mask off the entire movie. Right. He never did.
Right. So they did say there is a possibility you may not see it. So they showed art still shots, I guess, best way to put it, where he had the helmet off. Now I don't know if those were from this, from the show or just from the set, or you know what I mean. We don't know yet, but there was like hints that he might actually at times take the helmet off. So, yeah, what do you guys think of the trailer? Did you like it?
Well, with him taking the helmet off, I'd be okay with it if he wasn't in the rest of his armor and stuff. Like he was just outside of the armor.
That's my understanding. Is they wanted to show a human side of him, so he wouldn't have the armor on. It would just be him, like at the compound or whatever. You know what I mean?
Well, kind of like with Django and.
Right. Yeah, he's taking a break from the armor and just being a father or whatever you want to call it. What did you guys think of the trailer? I mean, do you like it? I mean,
oh yeah, very much so. I thought it was extremely entertaining. The visuals are great. I got to see it now. I got to see the plotting. Of course, the story makes it or breaks it, but they got the visuals. They're there at the level I wanted to be for my first ever live action Star Wars.
Doesn't that look more like Star Wars than any of the newer movies have looked? I mean, seriously, like that has a more Star Wars feel to me.
It's also playing in the familiar time period.
It is, but I mean, still, you've said it several times. They had the ability. They had that possibility of getting you to feel like it's Star Wars. I don't feel like they did it ultimately in Rogue One. They got better. Han Solo was okay, but like this is the first time in a long while I saw footage where I was like, oh my gosh, it's Star Wars. Like you feel it. I don't know. There's something about that you feel it. Do you feel the same way, Gary? Like I don't know. Well, visually to me, it just feels that way.
What I saw so far, I like, but I still gotta see more.
Right.
Before I have a real good decision on it. But yeah, I do agree with you, and it does feel more Star Warsy.
Yeah. So let's see how that plays out. Mandalorian, I'm really.
We're less than 3. We're 2.5 months out.
I gotta be honest. I recently broke ties with DirecTV. Everybody's heard about my complaints about the company. Well, we finally just went and we left. And I'm using PlayStation Vue and Sling now more than anything else in the world, and I'm loving it. I'm glad I cut ties with regular TV, and now I can binge watch whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. And the idea of the Disney Plus app, I'm all over that.
Well, I'm thinking now that Disney Plus has announced that partnering with Hulu.
I was about to say, plus I get Hulu and ESPN for $12 a month.
It's the Hulu with ads, but oh well.
I don't care. Yeah.
But I'm actually thinking of, for the month of October, doing the free month of Hulu to test it out, to see what I think of it and stuff, to see how well it plays. Are the ads annoying?
Like how much of that
kind of catalog do they have? Because there's. I'm a huge paranormal TV fan, and there are tons of specials and travel channel shows and all sorts of things. Like they call it Ghostober now. They've got stuff starting October 1st, so I'm going to use that free month to kind of see how much I keep up on all that stuff and if it's good, and then I'll decide if I want to do the combo pack or just get the Disney Plus.
And that's the one thing I'm loving. We were paying $225 a month for the premium side of DirecTV, and even getting all the packages we've gotten, and we're looking at getting like the NFL Network for the month of September, October, November, because I'm a huge football fan. We're still not even going to go over 225 with the Disney app, with everything else thrown in with. Like, we're not even going to come close. Like, it cuts it in like half total value wise. Yeah. I'm surprised we didn't.
Right now, all we do is we pay like less than $10 a month for Amazon Prime, and the 12 or 16 for. So we're paying like $26 a month. That's it for all our TV watching, because other than our cable or our internet, but our internet I consider separate because it's for computers and for all other things.
Yeah, business.
If we're talking if we're talking just TV, I pay $26 a month in services.
I should have done this years ago. Seriously, I don't. Yeah, I don't know why.
And that's why I want the Hulu, because it's like between Amazon Prime and Netflix, you get a lot of stuff, but you don't get TV.
Right.
Neither of them are great on the TV.
Yeah, like
you get TV series in Netflix, but it's all older stuff.
Right.
You know. It's this season, premiered last night, and now it's on Hulu. That type of stuff.
That's the one thing I jumped on PlayStation Vue for, because I did some serious deep diving research and everything. On PlayStation Vue, you get live TV, and I can DVR it, and I have cloud DVR, and it's infinite. I don't pay a dime, so I can DVR whatever. So when the fall hits, I can go back to all my shows that I normally watch that I would do on DirecTV. DVR them all and watch them that night later on. You know what I mean? Like I usually do. And so I'm kind of excited.
One thing interesting I've heard is that right now they've announced Disney Plus and what hardware you can watch it on.
Yeah.
And right now, Fire TV and Kindles are not listed.
Yes, I did notice that. Yeah.
But PlayStations, Roku's, Apple TVs, and for me, because I just bought one, thank God, Xbox One. So I can get my Disney Plus on Xbox One and watch it whenever I want. But they're not going to have it. I have a Kindle that I like to watch in other rooms, and I have, stuff like that I like to. We have a Fire TV stick that we use. That's how we access our Prime and our Netflix.
Right.
And it would be nice to be able to watch it on there, but if they're not going to do that, then I'll have to watch it through. Well, I'll be able to put it on my iPad too. And
watch it
like that. But it'll be more of a mobile thing and not on a big TV.
Okay. So this was not the only announcement at D23. There's been tons of other information coming out. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to actually go from the oldest, and we'll come up to the newest first. So the first bit of information... Wow, I really got to keep going, huh? Okay. The first bit of information that came out was that there was information about a Ms. Marvel TV show.
There's more by them.
Is there more? Oh, yeah. Look at that.
I don't know if it's anything we'll be interested in, but... Oh, they talked about some other things.
Hang on. There's the what if information.
There should be some images here. If you scroll farther, there's.
Nice. There's I'm assuming that's Carter, right? Captain
Agent Carter, but as Captain Britain.
Captain Britain, right? Which looks really nice, actually. So if they keep that style, I'm good with that.
So there's, I think there's still you're gonna get out of the stuff that's more. We're talking about other things that they're not.
Things like Phineas and Ferb and stuff like that. So obviously Disney Plus is going to include all their old movies. If you didn't know that, apparently Lizzie McGuire is going to come back for a new role in Disney Plus.
Phineas and Ferb.
Phineas and Ferb's coming back to Disney Plus, which actually will make my kids happy.
It looks like a new Monsters Inc. movie too.
Yeah, well, it's a TV show. What's the title of that? Monsters at Work. They're going to actually cover like everyday monsters at work.
So this I find interesting. If you scroll back down, you just passed it. The what if voice actors.
Yeah,
they had show.
Yeah, and it's quite the cast.
It's the roster.
Looking at it,
I can see that we got that is
looks like Liam Hemsworth for sure.
Wait, the first one is that Killmonger?
That might be, yeah.
I think Killmonger. We're going to probably do something with what if Killmonger became King of Wakanda.
Probably, yeah. That actually would be interesting.
We've got Josh Brolin, so there's going to be a Thanos.
There we go. Got a little bigger now.
Unless he's going to play Cable.
So Sebastian Stan.
Good. He could do Cable now. That
he could. You're right.
A voice of Cable.
Mark Ruffalo. Tom Hiddleston.
So he's not only going to have his Loki show, he's going to do voicing of Loki and What If.
Probably, yeah. I mean, when you look at this, this is the be-all and end-all of Marvel here.
I'm trying to see. Do we have Chris Evans?
Paul Rudd. You've got Jeremy Renner. It looks like you got Hank Pym. So.
We've got Nebula.
Yeah, Nebula.
Yep. Hey, is that it is, isn't it? Dugan.
Yep.
Ooh. A Howling Commando would have. That would be awesome.
Aram Zola, maybe?
I was just about Arnim Zola. It looks like they're...
Hanzu, who played in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Goldblum. So we're going to have the... unless he's going to do it... We're assuming they're doing the characters we already know.
Right, but I mean, they could be something
But I noticed
different.
some big ones there. No Chris Evans, no Robert Downey Jr.
No Robert Jr., yeah. I think they're going to stay away from Cap and Iron Man for a while now.
Yeah.
I don't think they want to conflate things, to be honest.
Now that they've done those things, they want that to stick. They want the loss of him to be felt.
Right, I think that's real, and they want it to be real. So they talk about WandaVision, the one of the TV shows. So
WandaVision sounds weird. It's a hard sell for me. You know, with Vision being gone, how he gets brought back, how do they end up together?
It's by the Dick Van Dyke Show.
I know, it says that. It hasn't started shooting, but getting
with
a tone.
weird darkness, a bit of horror, intense, half sitcom, half epic MCU adventure.
So I don't know what to think of that one. That's a weird one for me.
Yeah. John Walker is now confirmed to be in the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
And from what I heard, he's playing U.S. Agent.
Right, he's going to be playing U.S.
Now,
Agent.
I got to see who John Walker is. I can't picture him.
I'm going to have to look that up, too. And again, they still confirmed that the bad guy in U.S. Agent is going to be
Baron
Zemo. So there's definitely that. Then they announced that Ms. Marvel will be coming to Disney+. Plus.
Yep.
Now, these have got to be down the pipeline, right? We're talking 4 or 5 years.
There's a picture,
probably, right?
as you scroll up higher here, there's a picture that shows the timeline, and they list the 3 new ones, which let's get to all 3 of them. Ms. Marvel, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight. All of them are listed in the timeline as being after, like, far, like, after the Hawkeye one. And the Hawkeye one take place is not coming out until 2021.
Right, so you're talking
probably 3 years away.
3 or 4 years away for some of these. So that's interesting. They did show new names for Star Wars eras, which I find interesting considering...
We have the Age of the Republic, the
Age of the Rebellion, and the Age of Resistance. So, you know, that'll be interesting. Now, it's interesting that not only did they put the movies in here, they're putting some of the TV shows in there, which I'm glad they put that into the timeline so you can see kind of where they fit in. But they put Galaxy's Edge in there, just so you know. It fits right in about,
So what's the big glaring omission you see right now?
There's nothing about the Ryan Johnson.
Well, not that. Well, there's that, but what else? What do we know we're getting that's not listed on here? We just talked about it. No Mandalorian.
No Mandalorian,
They're not showing it on the timeline.
Better yet, there's nothing about what's the show we're watching? Resistance, right?
It's on the last one.
Is that?
It's under Age of Resistance. And Clone Wars is listed back. Rebels and Rebels is listed. Clone Wars. So all the animated shows are listed, but they have a dip. If you look at the timeline, they kind of go up and down. There's no name for the age where the Mandalorian takes place. Yeah. It's between the Age of Rebellion and the Age of Resistance. So,
they're not
linking.
It's like they left a gap there on purpose, maybe to put another age in here somewhere. You know, I don't know. That'll be interesting. But yeah, they put a timeline out of the Star Wars timeline, which most of us know it, but
John Walker is actually the character name for U.S. Patriot.
Oh, U.S. Patriot. Right. Okay.
Wyatt Russell will be joining him. Will be playing him.
I don't know who Wyatt Russell is.
I don't know who Wyatt Russell is either. We'll have to look him up. So, while they were talking about Star Wars stuff, they announced that Clone Wars, which was set to premiere in December.
Yeah, right with the start of Disney Plus.
Correct. So it's supposed to be like Mandalorian, like 3 weeks, and then my understanding was 3 weeks later was Clone Wars. That was announced at Celebration. I know everybody was psyched, like Disney Plus, yeah. Now they're pushing back the premiere all the way to February. What do you guys think? Like, what? Why? Because it would be in the can, right? Don't you think it's in the can?
Yeah, I think. I don't think this bodes anything bad. I simply think they're expecting the Mandalorian and their launch to be so big they don't want things to get lost. I think they're trying to, because the other thing you'll notice, they're not doing the Disney brand or the Netflix model. When Netflix released Marvel shows, they released them like all at once. They kind of overlapped, you know. I think what they're trying to do is literally I don't think any of these TV shows are going to overlap. I think Loki will run its run before it's done. Then you'll get Falcon Winter Soldier. It'll get the full run. It'll be done. Right. I think they're trying to space them out like the movies and not overlap things.
Right.
So I think they're thinking, well, The Mandalorian has a run. Let's not overlap another Star Wars show with that run, even though it's kind of a different target audience. Let's just space it out a little more. So that
probably so we don't get overwhelmed. I mean,
we're already overwhelmed.
I'm overwhelmed only because I'm a Marvel and a Star Wars fan, and they're killing me.
Yeah, well, not only that, but you got the Mandalorian coming out in November. December's the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
True.
Maybe they didn't want this
maybe the
playing
movie
while the
and
movie's
that,
going on. So I can see it being
because something would have to win there.
Yeah, well, it would be the movie.
Right, exactly.
I think they were worried about this getting lost in the shuffle, and I think
Probably.
they decided to move it to a quieter time when people will be more interested.
They also announced that David Luna and Alan Tudyk were there for the casting and/or show.
Yep, which we're not hearing much about when it's coming, but that's not been announced at all.
Apparently, Alan Tudyk's idea for a title was K Too Fast or K Too Furious, which is funny. So apparently, apparently Diego wanted to reveal a title, but they wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
Apparently, Kathleen Kennedy said no, we're not allowed to talk about that yet. They're shooting in London. The show's still being written at this point.
Yeah, so that's a ways off too.
Yes. So Filoni came out with Favreau for the Mandalorian discussions. I thought that was interesting. They did talk about... that's the other thing that's happening on the Mandalorian that we didn't announce, is that Ming-Na Wen from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is now joining the cast of the Mandalorian. I'm assuming that's going to be for Season 2, because Season 1 had wrapped up already by the time Celebration hit. So they're just starting to get into Season 2 of it, and by the way, they have confirmed there will be a Season 2 of The Mandalorian. They haven't come on with a show yet, and they're already like, yep, there'll be a Season 2. We're in. Favreau's like already writing it. And I think just the reaction they got from Celebration was enough to get them to be like, yeah, we got to do another one at least. And which is interesting because it's like the dead opposite for Swamp Thing. Like they hadn't released it yet, and they're like, we're done.
Yeah, we can.
Anyway.
That's DCU.
Yeah, completely different world. And then
apparently there's something released for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's not here on the thread. It's the very last post. It's something on their main page. They released a trailer for the new season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and apparently it's got something important.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, well, check that out. And then Ewan McGregor
pops his head up.
Showed up.
Ta-da! Hello, everyone. I'm here to talk about my show.
And apparently he is confirmed now as playing Obi-Wan Kenobi again. And he's going to be in his own show on Disney+. So it's official. They don't know when it's going to be released. It's just going to be a thing at some point. So I'm kind of excited to see that.
The show is called You Were Supposed to Be the Chosen One.
I have the higher ground.
No. It's going to be hello
there. So, of all the things we just saw coming out of D23, what's the one thing that hit with you that was like, yes?
Well, right now it's The Mandalorian because we're getting it.
Okay.
Everything else, even though it's interesting to talk about, I mean, the What If cast is really cool. And there's going to be some interesting, ideas there. All the Marvel TV shows, I mean, She-Hulk and all that, but it's hard to get excited about things that are 3 years out. And we've seen them announce timelines before and drop things, so I can't count on these things 100% yet. So for me, it's the immediate stuff. It's getting The Mandalorian and getting Clone Wars.
Now, let's say She-Hulk is going to be like Law and Order.
I think it'd be great. I think it should be her being a lawyer, but getting in the her comic from everything I saw was incredible.
I'm just sitting here thinking like dun 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 dun. I'm sorry, Gary. Was there anything with you that stuck out like that? You were like, yeah, that's a really cool idea, or that's definitely something I'm excited or looking forward to seeing.
Well, the Mandalorian obviously, but I also like the idea of She-Hulk coming.
Yeah,
it's about time.
See, the one for me that struck me was Moon Knight. I've always liked Moon Knight. And I hope they do the costume justice. I mean, like, if you're going to do Moon Knight, you better do the costume
Here's the problem, though, and people make a good point. If you're trying to be a night vigilante, going around in a bright white costume isn't the greatest idea.
Yeah,
so
I know.
It's one of these things where if they're going to movify it, they may have to change it a bit.
Yeah, and I get that. But remember, he's also...
He's possessed by a power of an Egyptian god.
Thank you.
Which, there's another hard sell for a TV show in the Marvel universe. Oh, I've got an Egyptian god in me.
But I think that's why, and that's why Austin and I were just talking about this today too. I said I think that's why you put people like Moon Knight on a TV show, or you put Arnim Zola as a robot on a TV show, or you put MODOK, something you would never ridiculously ever put in an MCU film, but would be great on a TV show. Totally could see them doing that. That's where I think there's some other characters I could totally see them throwing into a live action TV show, but maybe not necessarily. I mean, maybe they make a cameo in a movie, but you're not going to make a whole movie about that character. Right? You know, I don't see that happening.
Here's the other people I feel bad for. Everyone who got excited they were cast in the Netflix Marvel movies, who thought they were going to be Daredevil, and Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage,
and they were going to be
Fist,
known for that.
They were going to appear in the movies, and now they're all going to it's done. They're going to be forgotten and move on. It's like, wow, we put all this work in, and it's just gone.
Okay, so those are our thoughts on Spider-Man split with Disney and Sony taking their Spider-Man and walking away.
It's my toy. You can't play with it.
You can't have my webs. And our thoughts on D23 as they were happening to us tonight. We'd love to hear what you think. So head on our webpage and let us know. And we're going to take a break here, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're going to talk about the next episode of Star Wars Resistance.
Yay.
Gary's excited.
So,
all right, I'm going to stop for now.